Good morning. Welcome to New England Chapel. Thanks for joining us this morning. And I have a few announcements for us before we get started this morning. Can you believe Easter is right around the corner? We want to thank everyone who came by yesterday to drop off some donations that are going towards our partner, Straight Ahead Ministries. We are providing chocolate rabbits for some teen boys and Easter baskets for some teen girls. And so that drop off was yesterday, 9 to 12, and we're doing it again next Saturday, which is the 13th, 9 to noon. So thank you. There are no sign-ups. You don't need to sign up. You just need to come by our office between 9 and noon next Saturday with these items. And we truly, truly appreciate it. We've been doing this for years, and it's a great way to show God's love to some local teens. So thank you for that. Also today after service, if you feel like sticking around, I am hosting the Get to Know NEC session virtually. So at 11 a.m., you can join me on Zoom and I can tell you a bit about NEC, our mission, our history, and answer any questions you may have. There is a link on the homepage of our website, nechapel.org, where you can find that information. And I'm just going to pause here for a minute and tell you a bit about the new building and how it's coming along. If you haven't been able to go in there, it is quite amazing. We actually, the floor's down, the plumbing's in, a lot of paint has been done. In fact, most of it, it's looking amazing when you see the stage, when you see the lights. It's easy to picture all of us in there together, and it's very, very exciting. We do have a few more things to get done before we get that permit for occupancy. And that includes some safety rails that we ordered a while back, were promised. We cannot get the thumbs up to start meeting in there without those. And they're going to be worth the wait. They're going to look amazing, but we do need those in there. And that's kind of what we're waiting for right now. So we appreciate the continued prayers and support. There's going to be a few more opportunities later this month to go in for some serve days and help with kind of that punch list of stuff we need to get done to be fully ready. But thank you for your patience with that, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be worth the wait, I promise. All right, and finally, this involves me. Finally, Cindy Mitchell and I are going to be hosting a workshop on March 21st at 6:30 p.m., so it's a Sunday evening, and we're calling it Self-Discovery Through the Enneagram. This is something I referred to in my sermon a couple of weeks back, but this is a great kind of starting place to get to know yourself, your inclinations a little bit better, and how you can become kind of the best you there can be. So it's looking at 9 different personalities and seeing which one you identify with the most, and then looking to grow from that. So if you would like to participate in that, again, that's virtual. You can go online and sign up there. So the picture you see in front of you is I'm a loyalist, but I'm always looking for threats. On a sunny day, I'm holding an umbrella. And Cindy Mitchell is our helper. That is her personality trait where she just loves being supportive to her friends. And I can attest to that. So you can learn a bit more about us, other people in your life, and yourself if you want to join us for that. And without further ado, we don't know Mark's personality, but it is fabulous. Here he is for some music.
I was just confused why you pulled out like the one chocolate bunny for the guys, and then here's a whole basket for the girls. It's all right, I get it. Good morning, guys. Great to virtually see you, I guess. Let's jump into some music. Today I watched in silence as people passed me by. It was strange to see if there was something hidden in their eyes. They looked back at me as if to say, life just goes on. The old familiar story, told in different ways. Make the most of your own journey from the cradle to the grave. Dream your dreams tomorrow, because today life must go on. Whoa, 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 but there's more. dying, more than just trying to make it through the day. More to this life, more than these eyes alone can see. And there's more than this life alone can be. Tonight he lies in silence, staring into space, and he looks for ways to make tomorrow better than today. But in the morning light it looks the same. Life just goes on. He takes care of his family, he takes care of his work, and every Sunday morning he takes his place at the church. But somehow he still feels the need to search. Life must go on. Whoa, 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 but there's more to this life than living and dying, more than just trying to make it through the day. More to this life, more than these eyes alone can see. But there's more than this life alone can be. Where do we start to find every part of what makes this life complete? We turn our eyes to Jesus, we'll find that life's true beginning is there at the cross where he died. He died to bring us more to this life than living and dying, more than just trying to make it through the day. More to this life, more than these eyes alone can see. But there's more to this life than living and dying, more than just trying to make it through the day. More to this life, more than these eyes alone can see. But there's more than this life alone can be.
Thanks, Mark. And thanks for digging that song way out of like the recesses of the late 80s or early 90s.
Like Curtis Chapman had a mullet.
But right on. It really hits the theme of the series. The series we're doing is called What's the Meaning Behind This? And the idea is that sometimes we can just go through life. The image I had in my mind that I shared last week was this cartoon that I came across where someone had just fired an arrow into a tree and it kind of missed low and left but stuck into the bottom of the tree. And the cartoon is them painting a target around the arrow, showing that it was a direct bullseye. And that's kind of like how a lot of life can be if we don't watch it, right? Wherever our arrow ends, and all of our arrows are eventually going to end, is where we hit. It's what our target was. And so how we live our life, wherever it ends is where we're going to point to. That sums up my life. Marriage, church, and today we're looking at work. And so thanks for that intro to get us going. There is more to this life than living and dying. So what is the meaning behind all this? What is the meaning behind work? And I want to start off with a poll. If we were all together in a large room and I could see hands, I would give you this poll, but I'm going to give it anyways, even though I can't see you. And I want you to raise your hand anyways, okay? And but if you're like in a diner listening to this with iPod, AirPods and on a smartphone, then just raise your thumb. No one will see that, okay? So I'm going to give you 5 categories of work, and I want you, and I think everybody will fit into one of these categories. And so I want you to raise your hand when you find the category you best fit into, okay? The first category is really easy. You love your job and you're good at it. Raise your hand. Second category, a little more nuanced. You're good at your job, you're successful, but you don't like what it does to you. So you don't like how angry you get or frustrated you get or how resentful you get. You don't like what it does to you, right? Third one is you hate your job. And maybe you hate it because of what you're doing, or maybe you hate it because of reason 2 of who you become when you're doing it. That's category 3. Category 4 is you have atypical work, right? You love your job, but you don't get paid for it. Now, interestingly enough, our church, we are very grateful for this, but our church, 36% of our staff fit into this category. We have 4 out of our 11 staff members are unpaid staff. They're in our staff meetings, they go on our staff retreats, they're included in all the discussions, but the only thing that they're not included in is our payroll. They do it out of love, they do it out of passion for what they're doing, and hopefully they're rewarded in other ways other than financial gain. But maybe you fit that atypical category. Stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad fits in this, where well, you may not, there'll be days where you may not love it, but you're doing this, it's an investment, it's a lot of work, but you're not getting a paycheck from it. The last one is sort of you're not doing typical work. You're not doing anything that classifies that may classify work. You're doing stuff, but because of a disability, because of a health, maybe it's your vision, maybe it's your back, maybe it's your knees, maybe it's your mobility, or maybe it's because you had to resign or retire or quit because you needed to care for someone, but you're doing stuff, but you're not doing typical work. Which category do you best associate with, 1 through 5? So let me say that this message, this topic is going to hit all 5, and hopefully what I'm going to do, hopefully, is encourage you, and that'll be across the board, and especially maybe extra encouragement if you hit the I hate work, or I'm not working, I'd rather be, but I can't because of the situation. So we'll encourage you. It's also hopefully inspire you. The meaning behind, the purpose behind work is very inspiring once you grab hold of it. But then the other thing I want to do is some of you need challenged. You actually really need a kick in the behind when it comes to some of this. And so I am not, if you know my personality, I am not typically an angry person, although we were just talking about, when stressed and don't have any sleep and strung out on caffeine, maybe. But I'm typically not a challenger. I'm going to muster up all my hellfire and brimstone preaching, which won't be a lot, to challenge you when we get to that section. So, and I want to look at the theology, the purpose, the meaning, the target of work. Why do we work? It's more than just a paycheck. It's more than just, well, I kind of want to do something somewhat fulfilling because I need to pay, but I really just am doing this to pay the bills and to climb up in life and to get a house, to have a kid, blah, 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 blah. There's more to that. And so we're going to look to see what 2 key figures in faith say about this. 1, what does God say about this? And 2, what does Jesus say about this? And so we're going to look at 2 passages. You'll see how similar they are, which makes sense because Jesus is, God in human flesh. So we're going to use Genesis, the first chapter, and we're going to use Matthew 5, which is a chapter from the Sermon on the Mount. So let's look at Genesis first. And I'm using the Message translation this time. I usually use the NIV when I talk about, or another translation when I talk about Genesis chapter 1. But the Message is such a fresh, jar you out of normal familiarity. So I'm going to use the Message translation. God spoke, "Let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature, so they can be responsible for the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself, and every animal that moves on the face of the earth." God created human beings. He created them godlike, reflecting God's nature. He created them male and female. God blessed them and said, "Prosper, reproduce, fill the earth, take charge." Man, this was written so long ago, but is so amazing. It's so amazing. And if we look at this, it embodies what we said last week about the meaning behind life, but then it takes it even further. So basically, what these few 3 verses are saying is that we are made in God's image and God's likeness, and so we're made to be like God in some respects, but we're also made for God, and God has created us to get in on what He's doing. And so He's in the habit of creating and sustaining and caring, organizing and managing and upholding. And He calls us into that business. But He calls us into that business not as subcontractors. He's like, all right, I've done my work. I'm going to kick back now. You guys do it. Not in that way. He's not calling us into to subcontract the work. He is inviting us into the family business as partners. And so when we work, we are actually joining God in what He's doing. That's what Genesis is talking about. We are joining God in what He's doing. Martin Luther, you guys all know who Martin Luther is. Probably, if you don't, you're probably familiar with Martin Luther King Jr. And he actually, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't fact check this, but I think Martin Luther King Jr., MLK Jr., his original name was Michael, and he changed his name to Martin Luther because his dad changed his name to Martin Luther after Martin Luther. Okay? So, anyways, that was a rabbit trail I probably didn't need to go down. But Martin Luther was a 1500s priest, monk, and university professor, right? Really smart dude, incredibly smart for someone who is teaching around 1517. And he has he sort of has this cool take on Genesis chapter 1. But he does it through explaining this psalm. There's a psalm in the middle of the Bible. A psalm's kind of a collection of poems and songs. Psalm 147 is a song of praise where it's just praising God for a bunch of things that God does. And this is not going to be on the screen, so Cliff, you don't have to try to search for it. But Psalm 147 talks about a couple different things. One, it says that the Lord builds up the city and that He binds up the wounds of the brokenhearted. And then later on in verses 13 and 14, He strengthens the gates of the city and He satisfies the people's hunger. Right? And so Martin Luther says that how does He do all that stuff? How does He make sure the gates are strong? How does He satisfy the hunger of people? How does He bind the wounds of people? He does it through our work. He does it through the craftsmanship of the gate maker. He does it through the good neighboring of the people around the gates. He does it through the farmer who's planting the seeds, who's weeding and harvesting. He does it through the baker who is taking in that wheat and baking bread. Or I think most people baked their own bread back then, but he extends His grace and goodness to us through our work. And I want to read this quote. This is a translation. Martin Luther was German, and he lived in the 1500s. So this is a translation of his quote. But he said this. Listen to this. God could easily give you grain and fruit without your plowing, without your planting, but He doesn't want to do so. Remember, He's inviting us to partner in with Him in the family business. He doesn't want to do so. So our work, the work we do, these are the masks of God behind which God wants to remain concealed and do all things. Man, I think that is fantastic illustration of the theology of work, the what's behind this, the meaning, the purpose behind work. Basically, what Martin Luther is saying, and what Genesis is saying, is that when we work, we are doing God's business. And actually, God will use us to benefit ourselves and the world around us through our work, no matter what it is. And so basically what Martin Luther would say is that, hey, there's no such thing as God's work, like Heather, Cliff, and I, right? If you're on staff, you're doing God's work. But if you're a plumber or an accounts receivable pay clerk, you're not doing God's work. Martin Luther would say BS. He would say all work is God's work. All work is spiritual vocational work, because when you're caring, when you're creating, when you're building, when you're managing, when you're organizing, when you're investing, you are doing God's work. And God is working in and through you. And He is extending His grace and His goodness and His benefit to the world through your work. Man, if that doesn't encourage and inspire you, that's fantastic. The designer, planner, implementer, creator of the universe, and the creator of all of life is at work in and through you. Your work is the mask behind which God is disguised, working in and around His world. That is such an amazing target to aim for. And so how does this... how does this affect your job on a daily basis? Well, let's take a look at what Jesus said, and it's really similar. In the Sermon on the Mount, and if you were with us last week, you'll know I gave you that as homework. Read through the Sermon on the Mount. It's found in the first book in the New Testament, Matthew, and it's chapters 5, 6, and 7. And I want us all to just keep reading that leading up to Easter and just thinking about it, chewing on it, not reading it to get through with it. So if you only read a paragraph the first day, just keep on trucking, chew on it, let it saturate. But Jesus says this. He's talking a bigger context of work, but work is definitely the focus here. Matthew 5. Chapter 5, verses 14, 15, and 16. You are the light of the world, okay? So when you are partnering with God, God is using you to disperse the darkness. You are there to be light. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden because of its light, because of its size and vision breaking the horizon, right? Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In that same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds. And I want to look at that word for a second. That word used is actually ergo, where we get like ergonomically correct and ergonomics, which is like the activity of work. It literally means, the word means to toil. So acts of toil. So they may see your good work and what? They may see your good work and give you a raise. No, they may see your good work and say, way to go, you are an awesome salesperson. No, they may see your good work and glorify, let me read the passage so I don't make up my own words here. Glorify your Father in heaven. So not only is work, not only are we partnering in with the family business of God, we're partnering in what God's doing. So when we work, we are joining God in His work. But when we excel in work, we're actually pointing people to God. We're helping people connect with God, honor God in some way. Sometimes it's small way. Sometimes it's like, wow, you're different from everybody else. And it's actually refreshing. What's behind this? And you have a literal opportunity to connect people to God. But oftentimes it's just indirect. People, you notice people of character. You notice people that are kind and compassionate. And so when we work, we actually have the impact of our work itself, but we have a residual impact that, hey, Jesus is saying, when you work, add this to the target. When you work, in the same way that light gives off light, let your good work, your good toil, glorify God. People will see it, and it'll be contagious, and it'll be salty and light. And so this doesn't. This has two major impacts on our. First, how we go about our business. We should work. We should give it our all, give it our best. If we're slacking off, we're cutting corners. We're always late. We're always X, Y, and Z. How is that going to be salty? How is that going to be light? So obviously, God is calling us when we're partnering with Him, when we're doing work that He is using to be a benefit to everybody. When we're doing God's work by doing our work, we should go at it, even if we don't like it. Even if we are shopping our resume somewhere else, even if we can't wait to get out of this job, we should be going full bore. But there's another aspect to this, and this is the challenge aspect. So I'm going to get on my hellfire and brimstone. I'm gonna embody my challenger here, and say this: how we do our work makes a huge difference and matters to God. But who we are at work makes a difference and matters to God. Your success at work should not justify your crappy behavior. Your success at work should not justify how you blow up at people. It should not justify mistreating or belittle. You know what I'm saying. I shouldn't have gone for that second cup of coffee. See, I have a hard time being the hellfire and brimstone. But let me pose it this way. When work brings out the worst in you, would you want to hire yourself? If you're answering no. See, here's the deal. We can con ourselves, and this was last week, and if you're in the habit of conning yourself, you don't know it, but if you suspect it, go listen to last week and I'll confirm it for you. But we could treat people like crap, we could be frustrated and angry and blow up at people and be resentful, and we can justify it. Well, I got to get that report done. I got to nail that job. But I'm here to tell you that how you do your work and who you are at work are both equally as important to God and equally as important to your life health. And so you may justify it, say, hey, I'm only like that in the job. But I guarantee it's affecting your relationship with your coworkers. It's affecting your relationship at home because you can't completely unplug from that. And it's affecting your relationship with yourself. It's holding yourself back. Your success or your ability to do your job shouldn't bring out the worst in you. It should not bring out the worst in you. And if it is, you need to change that. You need to change that. You're not being a light. And guess what? Your coworkers, even the one who always screws up, is made in God's image and God's likeness also. And so God cares just as much who we are when we are working than what we're doing, as what we're doing. But you say, Mike, you don't live in the real world. I have lived in the real world. I've worked for this terrible I won't name the company now that I called it terrible. I've been there. I've been with the boss leaning over you who puts in 80 hours and expecting you to put in more than the 50 hours you're working and micromanaging. I've been there. I know that your field is full of hard, angry people who are waiting to see weakness so they can pummel and pick on, all right? I know you have bills to pay. I know you have a family to feed, but don't con yourself. If it's changing who you want to be, if it's affecting your character, you're conning yourself. Who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust yourself at the job that brings out the worst in you, or are you going to trust God? I guarantee I have never seen, and I've been alive for 47 years, I've never seen someone aiming for the target of work that God gives, doing things in a way that they are fine with who they are. And they're fine with what they do, even if they like it or hate it or whatever, whether they're getting paid for it or not getting paid for it. I've never seen someone who's doing it God's way and regrets it. Honestly, you might work in an industry or for a company that if you straighten up and you show compassion and kindness, and you take a moment out for people that actually might reflect poorly on you. That's one company in 1 million companies in Massachusetts, and 1 billion in the United States, and 1 trillion in the world, okay? Why are you pinning all your success and hope and financial security in that when it's hurting you and hurting your development and impacting your family when you get home? There, I'll take off my hellfire and brimstone hat. The target here is amazing. It's amazing. We are made in God's image, and therefore we're created to build, we're created to design, we're created to care for, we're created to sustain, we're created to help, to manage, to oversee, to uphold, to tend. And when we do that, whether it's getting paid big bucks or little or unpaid, when we do that, we are participating in the very work of God. And God is concealed behind our work, doing his good, doing his stuff. Your work matters to God. The people you work with matter to God, and you matter to God. Now, if you're a junior in high school, or a senior in high school, or in college, or just out of college, let me say, if you don't know what you're going to do with the rest of your life, don't worry about it. Relax. That's not the most important question. Just pick a job until you figure it out. The most important question is not what you're going to do with your life, but who are you going to become? How are you going to do your work when you're at work? How are you going to do your work when you're at work is a much bigger, much better question to ask. Things will begin to unfurl and the pathway will become clear when you lean into this target. Every job is pastoral work. There's no secular sacred divide. Every work is God's work. So if you need encouragement, hang in there. Hang in there. Lean into what God's doing around you. And if you need to shop the resume, shop the resume. But don't let it change who you are. If you're nailing work, but you're a jerk, I really wanted to say something else. Begins with an A. Stop it. You don't have to be that way. You're not called to be that way, and you won't be fulfilled in the long term. You're holding yourself back. And the act of trying to change at work will actually change you, because how you are at work, it's not actually work doing in that. It's actually some internal work that you need to do that's eking its way out when you're put in conflictual situations. All right, let me close this before I alienate everybody. This was supposed to be an inspiring, uplifting topic, but God loves you. Everything you do is part of what he wants to get done when you give it to him and keep him in mind. Let me say a prayer for us. Heavenly Father, the sheer craziness of the fact that driving a truck is actually gracing the world is outstanding. Plumbing a pipe, managing an account, selling a product, balancing the books, all part of your ongoing work of creation and sustaining creation. God, thank you for this viewpoint. Thank you that behind every nook and cranny of life is meaning, and that meaning is amazing. Thank you for giving us a glimpse of that meaning today as it pertains to our work. And help us to see that. Help us to be inspired and encouraged by that. And God, change us where we need to be changed. Thank you in Christ's name. Amen.
I was real hesitant to actually use the song because it has the word "thee" in it. and nobody uses the word "the," and then it also has the word "consecrate" in it, which no one uses that word either. So then why did I choose it? But I think that hearing Mike, especially as he's talking about because we will hear the word "consecrated, Lord, for thee, to thee." There's this opportunity that we have to be set, that God can set us aside to do His work. And Mike talks about this all the time, that He brings the best out in us, and so we can function that way in the workplace. And trust me, my boss is overbearing. I own my own business, so but it can be really hard, and I think sometimes the best doesn't come out because I get so hyper focused on either the stuff I got to do or the people I got to work with or whatever it might be, and yet this song, I think, is hopefully it becomes a reminder that here am I, all of me. God, help me to be transformed by you. So that's what this song talks a little bit about. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for thee. Here am I, all of me, and take my life, it's all for thee. Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King. Take my lips and let them be filled with messages from thee. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite would I withhold. Take my intellect and use every power as you choose. Here am I, with all of me, and take my life, it's all for thee. Take my will and make it thine, it shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is thine own, it shall be thy royal throne. Take my love, my Lord, I pour at your feet, its treasure stored. Take myself and I will be ever only all for thee. Here am I, all of me, take my life, it's all for thee. Here am I, all of me, take my life, it's all for thee. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee.
Thank you, Mark. Lovely as always. It was funny. I was watching him play, and there's parts where he's strumming, and he holds his fingers like he's holding a pick, but he's not holding a pick. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know. Is that a thing?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, love the talk on work. It's real practical stuff. The struggle for me is that I work in such a great place. Like, we're all literally friends. Like, when I'm not working, I'm usually hanging out with one of them anyway. So I think it's a little bit harder, honestly, for me. I'm complaining right now. I think it's harder for me to use this. Like, listen, if you work in a crummy place with a lot of crappy people, good news. It is so much easier to be light in that situation, right? Because you're surrounded by that darkness. And so, I get it. We don't know the situation that you work in, that you live your life in, but the harder it is, honestly, the easier it is to be different. And that difference is that thing that people will see and give glory to God in heaven. So we hope that for you. Before the service started, right before the service started, we had a request. Somebody mentioned that Mark Brunel, who is a friend of some of the people at NEC, has been missing for several days, and he's a Bellingham resident. And so I mentioned that we would pray for him, and we did this morning. And so if you would, just as we sign off, throw up a prayer to God that he be found safely. And thank you for letting us know that. Thank you for letting us know what's going on in your life and in your heart. And, if you struggle with these things, how to be Christ-like at work, or, what the meaning of all this is, that's a great topic of conversation. I would like to have that conversation. I know that these guys would too. So let's talk about that. And I would look forward to that. We miss you, and we love you, and we'll see you next week.